next item, because we're close to it. I do want to point out in the handout, under item number 5, the addition there in bold came out of the meeting on Wednesday night. It just simply says the trustees shall elect a chair and a vice chair, which they currently do.
Yeah, we just overlooked it earlier.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that that did come out from Tim Redmond's suggestion on Wednesday.
The other special feature is we agree that the trustees should be elected by the delegates for a 1-year term. Any discussion of that provision first? Hearing none, we'll just see to how do you want to talk about it? Okay. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 29. All those opposed? Too many. All those abstaining? All right, I think. I guess the last thing would be 1209 as a whole. Don't have anything else. 1209 with the corrections we've made today as a whole. Any discussion first?
And the corrections would be?
Corrections would be as follows. Paragraph 3 now reads, the trust may be revoked or amended by the USCF Board of Delegates by a 2/3 vote of delegates present at annual or special delegates meeting, provided that a proposal to revoke or amend is included in the delegates' advance agenda. Our revocational assets will revert to USCF. We added the or amended to that. Paragraph 4 is slightly reworded. Upon dissolution of USCF, the trust is to be dissolved with the assets distributed in the same manner as provided for the assets of the USCF in its articles of incorporation. Paragraph 10 has been changed.
5? No, 5 haven't changed.
The 5 you already changed.
Pointing out the language.
They have it. Paragraph 10 now reads, the purpose of the trust is to provide income to the USCF, to provide services to those who have purchased life and sustaining memberships in the USCF. And I think I have after December 31st, 2007.
That's right.
That's the change there. And then paragraph 13, I'm sorry. But we had and. I don't know that it substantively matters, but I think that preference was for and. Paragraph 13, the change very simple. We've changed USCF Board of Directors to USCF Board of Delegates. Paragraph 17 now reads, the trustees will transfer to USCF on a monthly basis an amount sufficient to provide services to those who have purchased life and sustaining memberships in USCF after December 31st, 2007. Those are the changes to 1209.
I also want to point something out here. By moving it to a trust, the delegates will no longer be limited to selecting a majority of the trustees who are delegates. Correct. Or directors, as they are today. So, if you decided you wanted to have 8 money managers as trustees, probably not the wisest thing to do, but if you wanted to incorporate USCF members who have special financial expertise, but were not directors of the organization today, or delegates in the future, then you can do that. So.
All right, so unless there's discussion, we'll proceed to vote on 1209 as amended.
Gary.
Is it our intent to deal with 1209 before the trustee, before we deal with 1214? Yes.
Yes, it certainly is the intention of the bill.
And you're going to put this motion forward without respect for what happens to 1214 on the floor. Is that true?
Yes.
Yes. I mean, yeah, I think the expectation is as we start passing, everything's going to pass.
Because honestly, and the reason for doing it that way, the trust makes sense to do anyway.
Well, that's really the question. That's really my question. Does it make sense if 1214 fails?
I think that it does, honestly, which was the reason for putting it in that order. Because I think it gives a better structure to what we're doing presently, and it gives us more flexibility. As I said, even if the delegates remain the directors, they'll be able to appoint trustees who are not necessarily delegates. We have an issue today that if the delegates were to choose to appoint 6 non-delegate members of the Life Member Asset Committee, Life Member Asset Committee can't buy or sell anything legally.
The
But I do indeed think this has value absent 14 and 15.
I think one of the reasons that we're passing 1209 first instead of 1214 is if we pass 1214 first, then the board of directors is suddenly the executive board.
No,
Well, we could have a delayed implementation there, I think.
no, because you cannot remove somebody directly the organization
during their term.
during their term. This will phase in over a period of multiple years. Because unless people resign as directors.
All right. Mike is referring to the delegates at large. If the people here remember, last year I collected a bunch of resignations. I have blank forms to get resignations. In other words, the delegates at large were resigning only their position of delegate effective January 1st.
You mean a director?
The director effective January 1st, 2013, and the intent, I think, was for that ADM to take effect on January 1st. And my expectation is anyone we elect here, including myself, I will also, resign effective that way. So I think by January 1st, we can have this completely phased in. That was fun. All right, we are voting on 1209 as amended as a whole. Any more discussion, or can we proceed to a vote? All those in favor, please raise your hand.
Roger, do you have a question?
I did have a question.
All right, Roger.
I did have a question because I haven't heard anyone discuss Articles 17, 18 of this about the amount to be transferred and what you do if there's a misbreak. And that looks to me like.
Well, 17 we haven't discussed because of the
didn't make a good deal, but that could be contentious.
All right, 18, which Roger is calling into question, says if the trustees and the board and the USCF board of directors, which is the executive board, fail to reach agreements to the amounts transferred to USCF, the matter shall be subject to arbitration, with the cost to be borne by USCF. I can't anticipate that that's really going to arise.
But somebody has anticipated or would be in.
Well, it's a false fail-safe.
The reason it's there is to,
We did amend it also to say since the December 31st.
Yeah, 17 is amended, but he's talking about 18.
and 18 was put in there at the suggestion of the attorney because absent an arbitration clause, the only way to resolve the dispute is to file a lawsuit.
The point of this is that the delegates decide who is on the elevator.
And they can kick everybody off the next year if they don't like the elevator.
That's just, you know, what point at which you're going to solve it. No. So I don't think this is going to be.
I think the one-year term, as Tim says, is the fail-safe.
Yeah,
Trustees act arbitrarily, they're all gone next year, and the new trustees would probably agree with USCF's position.
Right. Good faith in every division of this. And that's okay, that's well put. And should be good faith.
Isn't that not with past experience?
and honestly, and the provision of Article 18, frankly, was to force it to arbitration instead of a lawsuit if there were a disagreement that persisted beyond replacing the people who are having the disagreement. I mean, every year we're going to get an opportunity to replace all of the trustees and a hunk of the EB. So, you know, if it becomes a big deal, this just, if it becomes a complete impasse, it gives us a mechanism to force it to arbitration, which is kind of what we were pushing for in a lot of other things, was to require arbitration rather than resort to lawsuits. And arbitrations aren't free by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't think, you know, if you put it there, then you've created a situation where everybody knows what the rules are.
All right, as Gary said, we have a number of important things, like 1214. I would like to proceed to a vote now. All those in favor of 1209 as amended, please raise your hand.
Number 14.
14. All those opposed, raise your hand. And abstentions. All right, we're going to continue
Yes, the biggest, the one that we have changed from the delegates column is 1210.
1210.
What page are you on?
Delegates call
Page
page 18.
The handout is the second and third pages of the three-page handout, the one that started with 1209. The change we made was simply to add that or amend it. The trust has been established for the management of life member assets. I'm reading from the handout. The trust can only be revoked or amended by a two-thirds vote of the delegates present and or special delegates.
You're not on the delegates call, you're on the handout.
Run the handout.
Correct.
Provided that a proposal to
So
revoke.
would you slow down just a little?
All right, I'll slow down.
So
Everyone go to page 3 of a handout at the top. Thing in bold. Are we ready now?
Are we on BDM 1214?
No, we're on ADM 1210, the very top.
The 12-9 handout, bottom of page 2, top of page 3.
And this, again, is to be consistent with the wording we just passed elsewhere. The trust has been established for the management of life member assets. The trust can only be revoked or amended. We added these words earlier today by a two-thirds vote of the delegates present at or special delegates meeting, provided a proposal to revoke or amend is included in the delegates advance agenda. On revocation, all assets will be given to us. All right, again, this is something just to conform with what we've done. Mike?
When you say hereby repealed, does that mean effective immediately?
I'm sorry.
When you say hereby repealed, does that mean effective immediately?
Oh, okay, I didn't hear the question. Alan, you want to respond to that?
We are establishing the trust by the action of 12-9, and once we establish.
Well, the paperwork won't be filed until December 31st, more or less.
No, it will not. It will occur much sooner than that because the action of the trust is not dependent upon changes in the board of directors or anything else. So the trust will go back and we're going to cause it to be established as quickly as we can as soon as we get back.
I think Mike's point is we have
I
to
understand.
find the papers.
Yeah, there is a window of uncertainty between when the bylaws are amended and when the trust is effective.
Yeah, but we're not going to do any.
Yeah, I mean, I think the intent of the committees was to elect at this meeting trustees. Mike is right that the papers will take a little time to be done officially, whether it can be done in 1 month or 2 months.
The LMA committee is not going to do anything.
I think that
Yes.
We can make it repeal effective upon the establishment of the LMA trust.
That would be
Then
more
that's
appropriate.
All right. All right. Let's add those words. Very good. Thank you. Okay, any other discussion of ADM 1210 as in the handout? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
I just walked in the room and seen
Oh, 13. 27. All those opposed, please raise your hand.
And so the proposal for Gary to buy lunch for everybody in the bar is passed.
All those abstaining.
Thank you, Mr. Walters.
No, that's not the vote we're voting on.
The original 1210 just repealed the borrowing authority because the borrowing authority is contained in the trust. We're using that place in the sundry bylaws to add in the revocation provision.
Article 9, Section 10. But that's a good point. We should be clear. Okay, I didn't get to check. Wait, I didn't get to call abstention notice. Any abstention notice?
bottom page 2.
All right, let's move to 1211. We may as well stay on the handout, although I think that's the same as what's in the,
We ought to make that hereby repealed effective upon establishment of the LMA trust.
thank you.
That also means we need to elect both the LMA committee and the LMA trust
Yes, sir.
at the same time.
Yeah, that'd be a safer thing to do then.
We will.
All right, adding the wording to the effective upon establishment of the LMA trust.
My God.
No, thank you, Mike. Any further discussion of 1211? Hearing none, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And a half. Mike, is that a yes vote or not?
It's an abstain.
Okay. 13.
13.
Any no votes? Any abstentions?
1 here.
And 1 here. ADM 1212. Again, this was a technical amendment. Now, raising Mike's issue,
We just put at the beginning, effective upon establishment of the LMA trust, Article 7, Section 3
all right.
is amended.
Well, since we are essentially appointing the life member trust and the LMA committee at the same time.
Well, Alan's wording solves that because this is only effective on establishment of the LMA trust, so the current wording still stays with the committee. Effective upon establishment of the LMA trust. All right, we're on 1212. Any further discussion? This is just that you can't share too many of these groups. If not, all in favor, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I got 50 on this. 50. Opposed? Abstentions? Brings us to 13.
Right? No, I don't vote again.
Okay. Again, this is a clarification about service. You can't serve on too many things. Again, I guess it has to say effective upon establishment.
Yes. And this simply changes from LMA committee to Life and Asset Trust Board of Trustees. It also does change. Right now it says VP Finance in the proper title. In the rest of the bylaws, it's Vice President Finance. So this makes sense to be conforming.
Any discussion of 1213? Hearing none, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Those opposed, raise your hand. All those abstention, raise your hand. And now, before we proceed to 1214, we were thinking, since this last 4 group is pretty uncontroversial, of maybe just having one vote on all 4 of the delegates meetings. Is there any feeling about that at the same time?
Just combining them because they're all related to the same
They're all technical.
thing.
So if 12-9 passes, we'll order all of these, if 12-9 doesn't pass.
Actually, we could combine 12-9 through.
I'd rather not.
I mean, we could because they're all the same.
1209 is substitute.
12-9 does not pass, there isn't much point in voting on
Right.
any of those following ones.
That's
All right,
correct.
I'm hearing no objection to the combined 1210 and 1213. Now we get to 1214, which is for substance. And there is another thing about that, right?
Yeah, you have a second handout, which is titled ADM 1214. It has ADM 1214 and 1215 on it. They are mirror images of one another. One of them directs the amendment of the Articles of Incorporation, while the second one amends the bylaws. And the language between the two is excuse me, sorry about that, is identical.
I'm using mine only. Let's just see.
What these two do, if you go to your delegates call, on page 17, for delegate motion 1118, paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. we have done is taken these two paragraphs that were given to us by the delegates last year, gone to the attorney and said, how do we make this happen? And the language that we have in ADM 1214 is really to implement the intention of the stuff that's in DM 1118. What we have added to it is simply the ability to establish, amend, or revoke. We need to add amend to the language. One or more trusts for the management of life member assets and appoint or remove one or more trustees for the purpose of administering said trusts. Now, what we have removed from paragraph 4 is the language of the delegates being able to amend the articles of incorporation because they can't under Illinois law. The way that we deal with that is by putting it down into the last item, last paragraph under DM 12, the proposed DM 1214, which says that the amendments must be voted on by a vote of the voting members. And under Illinois law, that would require a majority vote of those voting. The voting procedures outlined in the bylaws, we have a whole elaborate thing about how we hold elections. We just referenced that. Now, at the meeting on Wednesday night, there were two other changes made to 1214. One of them was in writing 1214 originally, we were very consistent with the wording in DM 1118, where it says the Board of Delegates shall be the supreme authoritative body of the Federation. At dinner, I think Harold and Tim thought supreme could come out. So we took that out, but it was in there because the delegates had it in there last year. And we added the proposal that the board, if the board were going to recommend an article of incorporation amendment, that it would be presented for discussion at any regular or special meeting of the Board of Delegates before submitting such amendment to the voting members.
And I do have a wording amendment on that section, since you'll notice the first sentence there says amendments proposed must be approved by a vote of the voting members. I would also say the executive board must present instead of will present any such amendment for discussion. I think must, it would be consistent with both. And if you have must and will, that might raise a question of how mandatory will. Okay, this is on the first page of the ADM 1214 handout, the paragraph here with the dark wording near the bottom. And I'm suggesting changing that word will to must in line 2. And similarly, on the last page, to be consistent, Article 4, Section 7, the third line, again, change the word will to must, if you want both these sections to be consistent.
Notice the use of the term executive board as opposed to board of directors. Is that intentional?
Alan, that's all it is.
Yes? Just because it clarifies who's doing it. We can change it to be Board of Directors. They will be one and the same. But because here we're breaking out the duties between the Board of Delegates and we're referring Board of Delegates and Executive Board, it just seemed to make more sense. But it would be the same issue. We could change, say, Board of Directors.
We want consistency in language, so I think Megan is correct. Just be board of directors.
It's fine. It has that is absolutely okay because I mean what we said is the executive board shall be the board of directors. So we say board of directors here. It's fine. I don't care.
All right, so that amends that section, and you want it back.
It would. We'll be consistent between 1214 and 1215.
Okay. Oh, Jerry, and then
The very first sentence says the board of directors is hereby direct. Is that right? Shouldn't that go with delegates?
No, because the board of directors right now are the delegates, and And the board of directors can, under our present provisions, can cause the articles of incorporation to be amended. So I'm wanting to make it very clear that this is an action of the board of directors. That was the recommendation of the attorney.
The board of delegates acting as the board of directors currently.
Okay.
So since the board of delegates is the board of directors, it is the board of directors that make this happen. Because under Illinois law, it must be the board of directors.
So, okay. Well, then change the executive board of directors here actually introduces uncertainty like you're talking about. Since
I don't
right
think so.
here, we're talking about both the board of delegates being board of directors in sentence 1 and the executive board being board of directors after the third paragraph.
After this is passed, once it is effective, the executive board would become the board of directors.
So paragraph, just to clarify, paragraph 3, we want to say effective January 1st, 2013, the executive board shall be.
No.
For clarity's sake, you could just parenthetically say, formerly known as the executive board.
No.
No.
Well,
No, that was,
let's still think about the effective date, because as Mike Nolan pointed out, the effective date of some of this has to be January 1st, 2013, but not necessarily all of it. That's why I suggested adding it before the executive board shall be the board of directors.
If you're worried about the first sentence, I would offer the following suggestion. The board of directors acting as the board, or the board of delegates acting as the board of directors hereby direct the executive director. That clarifies who's doing it and under what authority they're doing it. The fact that later on they're no longer going to be the board of directors is the whole point.
that very first sentence isn't going to be printed anywhere under in the articles of incorporation.
Correct.
So-
But it will be in our minutes.
It will be in a minute.
And that's fine.
I think that's a good suggestion.
As far as the
Maybe
effective,
we get next year.
as far as the effective, as far as the effective date, I think we take the first sentence of this and say the board of delegates as the,
Acting as a board.
yeah, I didn't write acting as the board.
Acting as the board of directors.
In their capacity as.
Excellent words.
I like that better. It's only another little piece of it. In their capacity as the board of directors hereby direct the executive director to cause the USCF Articles of Incorporation to be amended effective December 31, 2012.
Can we change that direct?
Why?
Ryan, so number say you're right.
Should it be January 1st, 2013?
Alan, why does it have to be December 31?
I think it should be January 1st, because the old delegate's term is still